It's Sunday night, you're watching Let's Kill Twitter with me, Julian Hall. This is the show that aims to detox your timeline with the art of conversation. Thankfully, I don't have to trawl through Twitter alone. Tonight joining me is comedian and filmmaker Stephen Allen Green, all the way from LA. And just before I unveil Stephen, I'm just going to go through his fantastic bio. Well, I should say that I met Stephen in 2003 when he was at the Edinburgh Fringe, and he was there with a show about a show that he'd created and produced for an international comedy charity television show, which famously featured comedy legend Jerry Lewis, who collapsed. We'll get into that backstage, making international news. So that's when I met Steve. Steve is a product of the Comedy Store in LA, the original one, of course, but he hit his stride in London, England in the 1990s with when we were having our British comedy boom. Steve headlined the major comedy clubs. He hosted Comedy Central's South Park Weekends. He also created and produced the ill-fated Jerry Lewis show. We will obviously be asking him about that briefly. Steve's also been a joke writer for Jay Leno, Arsenio Hall, Jimmy J.J. Walker and Roseanne. And he's done a lot of voiceovers for prestigious companies. I've had the privilege of listening to these, and they're very good, I have to say. And in 2007, Stephen founded Pandelic Films, a London-based independent film development company focused on British style and quality films for the American market. Pandelic's short film Little Things has recently been garlanded with numerous short film awards, and I'm very aware of this because I see Steve posting them on Facebook, which I think he loves more than Twitter, regularly, and I'm
going to change that.
I'm very happy for him. Well, please welcome the man heckling me from the sidelines, is Stephen Allen Green. Hello. Finally,
hello.
We're here.
Have I been unveiled? Is the magic curtain gone up?
You are unveiled. You are being broadcast.
Wow, I've always wanted to be unveiled. How are you, Julian?
I'm okay. I'm really happy because I finally got a green screen. So if I turn around, you're no longer going.
I thought you said I finally got a green card.
I finally got a green card. Oh, that'd be lovely. If I turn around, you won't see my radiator anymore. It's so high tech.
Oh wow!
I know. We've really come up in the world on this show. I can tell you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you're on the cutting edge of these things. By the way, I just sent you a message. You might want to look at that on Facebook.
Okay. All right. On Facebook.
Well, the Facebook Messenger.
Right, hang on. So, let's just check. It says there's a delay on the stream, so I'm pretty sure. Yeah, happening now. It's definitely happening now.
Is it working now?
Yeah, it's definitely working now.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so good to be over this. I wouldn't want anything bad to happen with streams because that's never happened before.
Yeah. So if I go to your page, your Facebook page, I can see it streaming, which I don't.
Yeah, you should be able to see. I'm looking at the Let's Kill Twitter Facebook page. I'm glad you prompted me because it's admin time. We're streaming on Facebook Live, we're streaming on Twitch, and we're streaming on YouTube, where you can obviously watch the show.
Yeah, but where's the but I hate to. Where's the Facebook Live being streamed to?
So if you go to the Let's Kill Twitter's Facebook page, it's definitely
to the what? To the what?
Let's Kill Twitter's Facebook page.
Ah, not yours. Okay.
Oh no, it should be streaming to mine as well.
It's not.
Oh. Well, let's have a look at the. Well, that's Restream's fault, but I'll be. Yeah.
Okay, I'm on the. So let me see if I can share this now.
Everyone, sexy admin, everyone, and meanwhile, I shall sing while we make sure that we're streaming. No, I won't.
No, please don't make it worse.
And I can't believe you've never heard me sing. You refused even when we were hanging out in 2011. My fantastic.
I did not. I referred to. I wait a minute. I didn't want to hear you sing back then.
I never offered. I was too busy.
Well, that's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. I'm a liar and a fraud, obviously. But hey, so it's great to see you because I haven't seen you since 2011 when I stayed with you for about 10 days in LA. I chose my first time in LA and I haven't been back since. So obviously, I really want to, but I chose the worst possible weather. The 2 weeks that were probably the windiest and rainiest, not all the time, obviously, but it was still amazing. And I pretty much think we did a lot of stuff, didn't we? We went to a lot of places.
We went to the Comedy Store, the Improv. Did I take you to Musso and Frank's in Hollywood? Did we go there?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Which is why since I've been watching the Kaminsky Method, I've been getting very nostalgic. Yeah.
Of course. Did you stay at the condo with me,
I
or did you
did.
have a place?
Yeah, no, I stayed. Yeah. I was a Beverly Hills resident for 10 days. Whoa, I
So
peaked.
you had my dearly departed mother's bedroom, the main bedroom,
That's right. Yeah, I did.
and I was in the servants' quarters. That's how I have my guests.
Yeah, I know. It was. I have to say, yeah, and I'm very glad that I didn't disturb you after my. Because obviously, you know what I was doing when I was doing that. I was mainly going to see loads of locations. So I went to see the house that was used in hang on a minute. It looks at
Nightmare on Elm
no,
Street.
no,
Everyone goes
no.
in.
Oh, what's it going? It's going totally. I did the whole Buffy thing. I went to Torrance. I did the whole Buffy thing. I went to the house
Okay.
that was used in 6 Feet Under. I did the Warner Brothers studio. I mean, I totally geek fanned out while I was there. It was fantastic. I'm dying.
Good
I'm
for
still
you.
dining out on those memories. But speaking
There
of
you go.
films, how are you?
Yes.
Because it's going really well with Pandelic and Little Things.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes than is evident that I publicize. Basically, this film that I wrote and directed, the last big thing I did in England before I came back to America, um, big thing like the London Palladium. The last big thing I did was this high budget short film with 25 actors and 25 crew, and it was the most incredible creative experience I'd ever had. And I surrounded myself with people that knew what they were doing, and I just basically had to make artistic decisions. And there was a production fight about the cat. The producers did not want to use a cat actor, and I thought that was a bit animalist. But my ex-girlfriend, her daughter had a cat, and the cat did everything perfectly in one take, so I win. But yeah, so basically, this film is a comedy about OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, which I've had
Right.
all my conscious life. And when quarantine hit, uh, it brought back my OCD to the point where I'm, putting my shoes on, taking them off, putting them on, and if I don't do it, someone will die. And then it reminded me of this film, which kind of went nowhere after it was made because the producers were sending it to film festivals, and I never heard back, and I had no paper trail. And then I got involved with other things, bigger responsibilities and things I had in my personal life. So the OCD that I got from quarantine reminded me of this film, and then I saw, oh, look at all these film festivals online. And so you go to a website called Film Freeway, you put your film up, you describe it, you describe yourself, and then you see, oh, the Red Bean and Chili Film Festival in Louisville, Kentucky. And you go, okay, I've never heard of that film festival. But you look at it, and it's like, oh, it's $32 to submit it, and they have these categories. So I started winning about my winning, from selection to win rate is around 43.5%.
Okay, that's precise.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, and then one film festival said, well, we'd love to see a feature from you. And you got to understand the background of this. I'm almost done with this saga, but the background of this is that I've been back in LA for 12 years. My last gig before LA was, playing my home club in England, downstairs the King's Head, where I did great, and everyone loved me, bought me drinks, and I had a great time. And I come back here, and it's hell on earth for a lot of people, not just myself, but I was not, expecting that kind of hell. Like locusts, comedians, descended on the comedy clubs, and so, and I got told by a club I was over 30 and not famous. So go away. Anyway, so I got to the point where I just said, I don't, as a responsible adult, I went through a period where I was asking people where can I sleep on your couch because I'm broke, I'm getting a job. So I depended on other people for a time period in my life, for a long time, on and off. And I survived, and then I finally got a place of my own where I paid rent. It's in my name, and I had this place for 3.5 years, and I took care of myself like an adult and didn't borrow any money from anybody. Maybe this or that I did, but not really, not that kind of borrowing. And I I thought I need the same in my artistic life. You know, I no offense to anyone else, and there's a million really great younger, hipper, high Twitter count comedians out there. Why should they use me? And I'm kind of old school compared to what they're doing, even though I'm funny, and that is the end of that story. So I thought, I'm gonna make another film. So what I've done is I've taken little things as a template, and we filmed this great interstitial at a mortuary where I rise from a coffin and I'm handed a martini, and I'm, good evening. My name is Nigel P. Arison. I'm a crypto-capitalist, paranormalist. And
reminds me of a current comedian, but carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I introduced these weird, dark stories, and the idea is that we're getting 10 comedy geniuses, Ted, to make 10 10-minute films that they write and direct, and we cover all the costs. And it's put together, and I've got a couple of really established names. So I'm launching the whole thing on Kickstarter in a week or two. We'll see if it works. But even if it fails, Julian, I believe in it.
Yeah.
And you kind of, like, what was that phrase I learned in England? You go from strength to strength. So,
Yeah, we've ditched that now. We've ditched that since Brexit. No.
Yeah, how is it over there now? Enough about me. So how is it over there?
I mean, well, I don't know. I didn't choose any sort of, because I chose a couple of tweets myself. I'm not sure if we'll get to them, but I didn't actually choose anything sort of political this time. I mean, it just seems that the world has just seemed to sort of churn out endless shite since around 2015, quite honestly. And I just, I've just sort of lost of track. But seriously, more about you. So I've got a couple of follow-up questions. Firstly, I need to know whether the cat is listed in IMDb after all of that happened.
Yes, it is.
Oh, right.
It is. If you go to I don't know if it's IMDb, but it's IMDb Pro.
Right.
And the cat's real name, and in other words, the cat did not have the name changed for showbiz. The cat's real name is Dermot, like Dermot O'Leary, because my girlfriend's daughter was in love with Dermot O'Leary, from afar. And so Dermot, but the cat's character is Kitty.
Never, surely not. Okay, well that's good to know. It's interesting, this IMDb Pro, it's like you pay extra for cats, but whatever. That's I'm very pleased about that.
No, that's not it, but that's funny.
But also, I had no idea that the film was about OCD, which is very interesting. I suffer from that to an extent myself, and I know a number of people who do. And that is, that's somewhere I'll certainly be really interested in watching it. Now, you mentioned younger, hipper comics on Twitter, so I've got to ask you, like, the opening question to all of this, because you selected some great tweets for us this week. But what's your relationship with Twitter? I know you have a fantastic relationship with Facebook, because you bang out the one-liners on Facebook. It's not just about the Films Awards. You ruminate on life and all the rest of it. I mean, I think you do. Would it be fair to say you do a bit of your thinking through Facebook?
Well, before I answer that,
Yeah.
no. It's not like I need to consult with my attorney. My OCD is kicking in. I want to take care of one anomaly. So I used to have it where anything I posted on Facebook would automatically post on Twitter. But somehow that got kicked out a few years ago, and I've never been able to reapply it. And even if I go to reapply it, it doesn't apply. So there's some disconnect. But then I saw that as a good thing, because I was spilling too much. I would be doing these, waking up at 3 a.m., still in a daze, having some weird thought, and posting it, and then realizing in the morning, oh my God, that just sounds so bad. There's no sense of irony. But what was the question again?
It feels like sort of in terms of, now that's really interesting, because actually I do remember when you could post something on Facebook and it could go to Twitter or vice versa, and that doesn't seem to happen so much now. You have to.
Okay, so
I don't think it's just you. Yeah, you and versus Mark Zuckerberg. But yeah, it just feels like that. Facebook, and Sajila, who usually is like my co-host on this, she's away at the moment, but she's a Facebook girl, and she does, and I think she kind of obviously likes the community of it, and I think she kind of. Some people are very successful at using Facebook to kind of workshop ideas. Other people obviously think that Twitter is useful for that. But I mean, how do you actually feel about Twitter? You know, are you in the sort of camp, like a lot of people are, which is that it's a bit of a toxic dump?
Well, I mean, I think Twitter is a great platform. I just haven't really investigated the mechanics of it. In fact, preparing for the show, I was like, oh, how do I do this? Oh, I see. I can bookmark these. You know, I had to figure it out. I never really paid much attention to Twitter as I should have. And I also always felt that if I'm going to tweet something, it better be really important. But Facebook is a lot more casual. It's like, hey, Bob, you know, what do you think of the pate? So although Facebook has had a deleterious effect upon my emotional stability, mostly what I get subconsciously and consciously pissed off at is seeing people's posts, usually other comedians that I actually know somewhat in real life or know pretty strongly in real life, and they completely ignore me. Not just they've stopped following me so they don't see me in their feed, but if I post something, comment that's clever and not abrasive, you know, and I always have to filter it, by the way, because if it's if it's someone who really knows me or someone who's British, I can post sarcasm without worry. But, you know, there's some parts of sarcasm. There's so many parts of sarcasm. It isn't just making fun of the person hearing it. You know, it's making fun of a system or it's making fun of the language itself. And so I just think that some of these people that kind of intimidate me just aren't that bright. But then again, half the people out here in LA are on Adderall and all sorts of mind-altering drugs. I have
don't ever change LA. Yeah.
No, it's just they just change the prescription. They never change LA. They just change what drugs you're putting in your brain. And then everyone's self-diagnosed with ADD, but they're just fucking assholes who, you know, I've had a couple of cyber dates where we met. You know, I met this woman at a restaurant that we even talked on the phone beforehand that I met through the Facebook dating site. And they just talk. I sat down at the restaurant, talk. And even if I try to engage, you're like, oh, that sounds interesting. What color was the monster that you just said was coming at you? Talk. They don't even hear the question. Talk. And the last time this happened, I let her rattle on for 20 minutes. And, you know, I'm pouring the automotive grease of the vodka martini in my head to try to bear it and still hold interest. And finally I said, do you always just talk? And this is on a first date. Do you just fucking talk? I mean, I don't want to waste time. I don't want to see this person again if, you know, and I find it really sad. I've met a lot of people like this, mostly women, that just feel they have to constantly, they're only listening to themselves, in fact, that they're talking about something and then that reminds them of something else and they talk. I do have a couple of male friends like this, actually, and you really have to, like, get in there to get a point. But
isn't that's IRL, isn't it, as they say, in real life? And that's...
It's what?
IRL, that's what the kids say. When I say kids,
LARL?
I mean... No, IRL. When I say kids, I mean people who are in their 30s. In real life. So what you're describing there is sort of like at least an in real life situation, because the social media sort of issue that most people have is that social media is actually quite hard going on the mental health. So even if you were with someone who's a bit of a nightmare, I don't know if that's worse in person, must be really. But
well, no, some people are better on Facebook, much better than they are in real life.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm sure that, yeah, I think there are.
All right, let me ask you a question. If you met somebody and they're in show business, you ran into them and you haven't seen them in years, down in Leicester Square, you see your Nigel, and you go, hey Nigel, how are you? I haven't seen you in a long time. How you been? And Nigel is, oh well, you know, mate. He's a blah 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 blah, and then blah 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 blah, and then blah 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 blah. You expect him to then say, but that's me. I'll get through it. How are you, mate? Right?
Yeah, I'd have to say you messed up the punch. You messed up the punchline. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, well, what was the punchline?
No, you see, the thing is with that is there'll be such a novelty to actually be out. I mean, even before the pandemic, I was perfectly placed for this pandemic, as I sort of often say to the viewers, like, what, you mean I have to stay inside, work from home, and never see anyone? Why don't I just continue the life I was leading all the way up to the pandemic? But so I think, yeah, maybe the novelty of that, but how soon that novelty works off, I don't know. What was interesting when you were saying about the sort of dopamine effect that people get from Facebook, and they need that feedback. So when we get likes on Twitter or Facebook, that is a feedback. So somebody says it's my birthday. You know, I don't celebrate my birthday particularly, and I certainly don't do it on Facebook. But there must be people who are used to announcing things that get a certain level of likes, and they probably think, oh, I only got 30 likes. You know, whereas on Twitter, unless you're pretty big, you know that you're sending stuff. Well, certainly my level, you certainly know you're sending stuff into the ether, and if you get a couple of likes, it's a massive bonus. Where on Facebook, it just seems a bit more sort of, you know, life and death in inverted commas.
Yeah, there's more immediate feedback. I mean, you know, here's the thing. I sometimes take 3 days, sometimes a week. One time I took 10 days off, and I can't because I'll start getting notifications that people will start commenting and liking a post from a week ago because there's nothing fresh. And that's what they see. And then I feel like a little guilty, like I better go back in and like that person's funny follow-up line. But I get resentful. I start to think, you know, it's making me unhappy. I need to take a break from it. But you know, if I post, you know, hi folks, I'm having mental problems on Facebook. Facebook's irking me. I'll be gone for a while. You know, then I got to deal with all those comments. Oh no, you're great. Well, I get people that message me and say, your joke made my day. I had such a rough week, you know, or, you know, I'm following your struggles. You're my hero. Don't give up. You know, I'm reading that while I'm adjusting the noose, you know, because you can adjust the noose if you do it right with one hand and hold the phone with the other.
And multitasking, fantastic.
Oh, you kidding? So, you know, and then here's the weirdest thing that happens with me in Facebook. The weirdest thing, I think, is that I get to a certain place, usually lately from this apartment, but not where I'm staying now, but this apartment has such bad vibes. There's been murders and suicides and crimes, and they turn off the heat. There's been cockroaches and bed bugs, and there's a dangerous, crazy person downstairs with a tattoo like Hannibal, starring the second one, directed by Ridley Scott. And it makes noise and keeps everyone awake, which is why I'm not living here. So,
we'll just leave the camera rolling after we finish then. No, go on.
What do I think of what?
No, I said we'll just leave the camera rolling after we finish.
Yeah, right. No, so the point is that I'll start hating everything about my life and everyone in my life. And I'll think I'm just the biggest loser. And I'm never getting anywhere. And then I see someone's post and I go, who the fuck cares about your career, your gig? Who cares that your baby puked on your, you know, wife's breast? I don't care. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Or you're not that funny, or, you know, you're a self-promoting comic that has no fucking talent. I'm tired of seeing you in my feed. Who gives a shit how grateful you are? Fuck you. And then cut to me waking up, having coffee, and posting exactly the same shit.
If I was a comedian, this would be like having a conversation with myself, no doubt. But I'm not, so that's okay. But what you have done is you've been on Twitter long enough to pick out 5 really good, meaty.
That was a really good segue, by the way.
Yeah.
I want to point out at 8:26 or 20:26, really good segue. So let's get into it.
Well, so listen, where do you want to start?
It's up to you.
Well, listen, I'm not sure. So I'm not really sure what's going on.
You don't know all these people, I know.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. So let's start with Rudy Giuliani's tweet. If you can, and just read it out and then just explain what is going on. What's going on with Rudy Giuliani?
You know what? I have to get this is a weird thing because I need to get my glasses.
That is fine.
But then when I get the glasses, then it's just one of those old man things. Okay.
That's suspense. Oh, nice.
There we go. The war, this war was a proxy war. It can be best described by comparing it to a scene in The Godfather when Corleone explains to his consigliere, who was really behind the attempt to kill him and destroy his family, Tartaglia is a pimp. He never could have outfought Santino. So I don't know. I was just scrolling. I don't know what war Mr. Giuliani is referring to. Do I need to explicate who Mr. Giuliani is to your audience?
No, I think we're okay with that. I would love to know what the war was, but
well, if I can look at the date, so 8/6/21. That's impossible. Oh, it's 6/8/21. Or that would be that hasn't.
It's going to
if that was June 8th, and that's the British version of dates. Why is Rudy?
Yeah, it is. It's June 8th.
Oh, because it's just a screenshot from your computer. That's why.
Right. Yeah.
So June 8th. I don't know what war, but there is no war at the moment, unless he's, I don't know, maybe talking about trade war with China or the cyber war. That's probably what it is. So go back up to it. Go back.
Well, it looks. Okay, cool. Yeah.
All right, but here's what attracted my attention was that The Godfather is a movie based on a book based on combination characters and research that Mario Puzo had. And The Godfather, the movie, has become beyond iconic in America, to where it's gotten to be an acceptable thing, that it's just about a family, the inner workings of any family. They just happen to be mafiosos and murderers and extortionists. And so for Rudy Giuliani, who was at one point the New York-based federal prosecutor who brought down John Gotti, the Teflon Don, the modern mafiosa of Little Italy from the 1990s New York, real violent, mean. I mean, this is the stuff that inspired The Sopranos.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So for Rudy Giuliani to be invoking a Godfather metaphor to access some sort of skewed perspective of some war going on, is self-indicting. He's just saying, look, this is the dirt that I know how to play with. Tartaglia is a pimp. He never could have fought Santino. Now, Tartaglia, Bruno Tartaglia, was also known as the Turk. And this is what sets off the Godfather saga, is that the Godfather family, the Corleone family, are in business with prostitution, gambling. Those are the two main things. And I don't even know if they do extortion. But they're in prostitution and gambling. So the Turk comes in and wants to meet with Don Corleone, because the Turk, he's from Turkey, so guess what he wants to deal in? He wants to deal in cocaine. And Sonny Corleone, also known as Santino, as referred to in this tweet, is the hot-headed son who gets killed, who gets himself killed because of his hot-headedness. And saying that Tartaglia is a pimp, I think means that he's really representing the other mob leaders of the four families of the five family mob scene in New York at the time. So it's just extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. First of all, it doesn't make any sense unless you really know The Godfather.
Yeah.
Secondly, this is the president's. Did you ever see a movie called The President's Analyst?
Well, no, you sent me a clip. Yeah. James Coburn looked amazing.
James Coburn plays the president's analyst. It's a great concept where the president is so under stress he needs a therapist or an analyst, but now the analyst knows too much and is being hunted by the CIA and
everyone else.
Everyone else. It's a great premise. So anyway, that's what Giuliani is. He's the president's, not analyst, but he's the president's idiot mobster. So Giuliani here is trying to make a political point using a film that he probably doesn't understand, and then trying to do it just to, I don't know, buzzwords like The Godfather, trying to scare people. It drips emotionally of death and there's a lot of death in The Godfather. I think Giuliani is a death worshiper. That's his problem.
I mean, he has led many lives, hasn't he? Really.
I don't admire him. Yeah, I think he's a phony. My dad used to call people there's phonies. We don't use that word anymore. Those are the most dangerous people out there, the phonies. That's what Giuliani is. Because we know he's a phony, because back in the 90s, he was one of our heroes. And then he was the 9/11 mayor of New York. God, was he great.
Yeah.
He was stronger and smarter and more forthright and more stable than the then President George Bush, who was like a, drooling, quivering child in short pants who couldn't handle shit. And Giuliani, the mayor of the city which was attacked on 9/11, is really, that's how we feel. We're going to stand strong but keep level-headed. We're not going to let this bother us. We're New Yorkers. And that inspired the entire country, I think. And now, in the last 4 years, he's pimped himself out. And he's basically, you know what it is? It's just a classic crime story where the police, the establishment, gets so entrenched in surveilling the criminals that they become the criminal. That's what Giuliani is. He's a criminal.
Well,
there's no question.
I mean, the full circle thing, because I do find him a fascinating character because of all the roles that he's played, and particularly, obviously, as mayor of New York, he's a legacy of not just 9/11, but the zero tolerance guy, essentially. Which kind of changing the face of New York. Gentrification to some extent. I think the fact that he's attached himself to Trump, there is that sense of kind of. People have compared Trump to John Gotti in ways. So there's something slightly circular going on there, and he's attached himself essentially to the wrong side in the sort of the sort of tail end of his career. So he's going out with a bad taste, really. I mean, this.
Well, I wouldn't jump to conclusions. Say it's the tail end. Who knows what?
Well,
if he doesn't go to prison. I mean, he could be running a cooking show. Giuliani. This is Italian food. I served to
that would be a step up from the way things are at the moment, I think. But
yeah, I suppose.
I mean, it actually looks like this. I'm going to obviously have to investigate it later. I didn't have time to before, but it looks like he's talking about Israel, Palestine. So I mean, that I'm glad we sidestepped that. Let's just for the moment we've had plenty to say on that particular tweet without delving any further. Now let's go. Well, listen, we talked about Trump, so this seems to be the obvious place to go.
Rob Reiner, who you may know as the multi-award nominee winning incredible filmmaker who was this wonderful 1970s actor on All in the Family, and then was the on-camera documentarian, playing the documentarian in This Is Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
And then Castle Rock Films, Stand By Me, some great films. So Rob Reiner is a major Beverly Hills liberal, as am I, and he says it's one thing to hold a Bible upside down for a photo op. You're just a calculating asshole. It's another to put your pants on backwards in an attempted comeback. Now you're a pathetic loser. Okay, so the Bible thing, you know what that's referring to when Trump, all right.
I suppose we should refresh viewers' memory. Yeah. So when he came out, this was.
Yeah. So he had his henchmen clear homeless people away from a church. Literally. Get the fuck out of here. Can I curse on Twitter, by the way?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Fucking hell. Because otherwise I'd be a cunt. So he had his henchmen come in and clear, homeless people, and I believe they were homeless people, away from this church, just like. That's what you do, right? So he could hold a Bible and make some statement, but he held the Bible upside down, just for a photo op. That's what that refers to. And the pants on backwards thing, I haven't really wanted to examine these pictures enough to know whether he's put his pants on backward. And of course, living in England, when I hear pants, the first thing I think is underwear. I don't want to know about Trump's underwear. Um, but here's the problem I have with Rob Reiner's tweet, because I'm a lefty. I'm very much a lefty. I'm very more than people know, but uh, he's just speaking to an echo chamber because the people. It's just what Twitter does. So the people that like Rob Reiner, follow Rob Reiner, are alike like Rob Reiner, and he's just echo chambering what they already know. There's nobody left to convince Rob, and that's why I have some right wing nut jobs still as Facebook friends, because I want to well, first of all, some of them have been really kind to me, and some of them are funny, and so I try to separate politics from human behavior, but.
You may be the last man on earth who's doing that. No,
well, yeah,
I think that's a good thing.
I
think that's a good thing.
Everyone else is taking a shortcut these days. That's why cancel culture exists, because they don't want to have to. When you actually have to consider someone else, whether they're worthy of being your friend or whether it's healthy for you to be friends with them, you have to do a lot of self-examination if you do it right, because you have to ask yourself a lot of questions that end up being. Does it bother you because they do it, or does it bother you because it triggers something within you that you haven't completed in your growth as a person? Because that's usually the reason. So be more forgiving. But you see, all of that takes years and years of training and focus on how your own perceptions are calculated in your brain. I mean, I went to therapy for on and off since 1973. So a long time in therapy, and therapy has taught me, how to separate the person from their thoughts, basically, including myself. So, but anyway, the point is that if Rob Reiner were really British clever, he would have said something that, if it was like, on one of those news talk shows during the day, that would corner the enemy. Who's he addressing? That's the first thing. It looks like in words he's addressing Donald Trump. Donald Trump is banned from Twitter. Does that mean he still goes on Twitter? We don't know. He's not even tagged Trump in this, so Trump isn't going to find it unless Trump is actively following what Rob Reiner
Trump.
said.
Doesn't even use the word Trump.
Doesn't even.
Yeah.
So. It's gotten 4,000 plus retweets. Who's retweeting it? The Fox News, the right wing? No, I don't think so. Unless they want to attack Rob Reiner. So, I mean, I applaud Rob for his, vociferous opinions about Trump and those losers, and I think he's right. But who's he speaking to? That's my question.
Yeah,
because that's the thing.
First of all, I'm just sort of thinking about how I blush on behalf of my fellow Britons about how you think our British daytime TV shows might elicit some kind of. I mean, maybe some of our evening ones might do. I don't know. I do know what you mean. I understand the whole echo chamber problem. I mean, that's one of the things that this account tries to do. I try and draw tweets from. I mean, I never imagined I'd be retweeting Marjorie Taylor Green, but obviously I have done tonight, so we might as well go on to her next. But I understand. Yeah, it's really hard to get. How do you get away from your echo chamber if you're consciously following people from different sides of an argument? If you purposefully doing that, that's fine. But there aren't that many people conscientiously doing that unless they're doing it for work. I mean, if they're a journalist, that's exactly what they should be doing.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you how. I mean, just as to get this out of the way, I think the entire Republican the leadership of the Republican Party and a good swath of the Republicans are horrible people that have sold out this country and are criminals and should not be holding office. But having said that, even in their bad ideas, there's often a good idea or a good point. And I think that is the problem with American politics is there's only ownership of side of ideas. And it's like whether you're, it's whether you're Jew and that's culture. Now you can't argue with the rabbi that eating shrimp carved into the shape of Moses is kosher. It's still shrimp. So, or prawns, as you idiots say over there. So, but my point is that there's no conciliation. No. If the right wing were to look at Rob Reiner's post, you'd think they'd come back and say, I like Rob Reiner's. They always say, I love Rob Reiner's movies, but I don't like the man. And for him to attack our former president is just unpatriotic. However, they never get to the however part. However, he did embarrass us with putting his pants back on. They never will concede anything, and the left won't concede ever that the right may have a kernel of an idea. So the right might say, for example, we want to stop funding Planned Parenthood, which is what Trump did. Planned Parenthood deals with women. I think it deals with both parents, I think, men and women. But I think it focuses on women and birth control and safe sex and birth control is that big hot issue that the Bible thumpers can't stand. But they might say, so we don't want to fund Planned Parenthood. But there's never a discussion of, okay, the other side saying, okay, what is it about Planned Parenthood that you don't like? Because it used to be called the pill, which is, anti-pregnancy. So if the right would then answer that question and say, well, I'm a female senator myself. I'm glad for Planned Parenthood. I have a couple of daughters, says the male senator. I'm glad they're there to counsel how to avoid being raped, how to avoid being pregnant. If you don't want to be pregnant, I'm glad for that. But I'm against the abortion issue. So if they would just slice everything up to what is the fucking problem here, let's fix it. Because what it is, this whole thing seems like me trying to deal with my ex-girlfriend, which is, what is it that you're pissed off at? Because I know what it is. There's nothing to do with me. So can we separate me from that? Can I try to help you solve that? Do you want me to fuck off and go away for a while? Whatever. She would never listen to that. That's the problem, is that the right and the left are being led by extremists, both sides. And the reason they're being led by extremists is because they're who they are is not represented anymore.
I think that's a good moment to go on to. You see, one of the problems that my handle on American politics comes from two sources, I think, really. One is the American comedian Eric McElroy, who's lived over here since 2000, and he does a podcast called American Exchange. He's got Scaramucci. Anthony Scaramucci's just been on it again.
Scaramucci, let him go. Let him go.
But the other, of course, is real-time Bill Maher, and I sort of apply to him a bit of a worship Bill Maher, really. But
you are a fan, or you're not a fan?
I'm a big fan. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, I think.
Okay, well, if next time you're out here by Christmas, I'll take you to a Hollywood Christmas party he attends.
Well, something to aim for, isn't it? That's just the idea of going away. But there you go. I'm going to make a note of that right now. But one of the issues.
Let's go over to Representative Marjorie Taylor Green, who is she's the latest Trumper. So anybody can get elected. We proved that with Trump. Anybody can get elected to any office in America. You don't have to be qualified. In fact, the less qualified, the more chance you have to be elected. So Marjorie Taylor Green, a conspiratorialist with no brain, the one who talked about Jewish lasers starting forest fires, she tweeted at some point, the communist Chinese government needs to pay up big for what they've done to the world. Okay, I assume she's talking about the virus. Well, So what's her point? Her point seems to be that they're communists. So she's using this as a sideswipe to all lefties, is what she's doing. What the whole point of this tweet isn't about what the Chinese government is doing, if she's referring to the virus and their irresponsibility within the lab in Wuhan. What she's actually doing, in my opinion, here is she uses the word communist and talking about the lefties all the time. So she's now equating the lefties with the Chinese because she's using the communist.
But it is the Communist Party of China. I mean, that's absolutely who they are. They'd have no qualms about being known as who they are. I mean, obviously yeah, of course, she didn't even need to put the word communist in there. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Right, she didn't need to, so she's doing it for a purpose. Let's move on to the next one. She makes me puke. She's insane.
But it's interesting because I read to introduce her. Like, even if you just look at her Wikipedia page and you want to avoid any sort of lawsuits, all you need to do is read the Wikipedia page, and it's quite the read, even in a matter of fact way. But the one thing I would make from MTG that's going back to Rob Reiner. One of the things about attacking the Republicans at the moment is that the Republicans seem so adrift from reality that it's almost like, why? I mean, I suppose some of the houses are still sort of quite balanced, but they're so far gone from a kind of. I mean, they're making people long for Bush and Nixon and God knows what else. I mean, by the measurement, some of those characters are, compared to what's happening now in the Republican Party, seem sort of much more sane and palatable, really.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I remember, I was a conscious thinking adult when Nixon was president, and Nixon. Everyone was talking about how Nixon was, mentally unfit for his entire career. And they thought. The impression we got, and then the mainstream media, where there was only the mainstream media, no fringe media, just basically, our big worry is we have a crazy man in as president, and so to sit there and say, well, certainly not as crazy as Trump, what's the difference? You go into an asylum, you don't judge.
I can't see Marjorie Taylor Green doing as well in an interview with David Frost, but I take your point. I mean, absolutely. I think Nixon was a scary time. I wasn't even there secondhand. But there are degrees of, like, I don't remember Nixon. QAnon was not a Nixon thing, or whatever. But it's not. It's only degrees of sort of being a scariness.
It's also context, and that is history, is understanding context, and in terms of the Republican Party being so off the rails, I think, look at, Senator Mitt Romney, who was the only one to vote for impeachment, and then Liz Cheney, the daughter of Dick Cheney, who was the face of the Republican Party until they voted her down because she was talking about Trump. So I think it's the people who control the Republican Party. I don't think they're crazy. I think the people that really control the Republican Party, we don't know who they are. Let's remember that. It could be the Koch brothers. It could be other brothers we don't know about, or sisters. Let's be
egalitarian
here.
About this. Yeah.
Egalitarian.
Yeah.
So whoever controls the Republican Party, their on message, as we used to say in the 60s, their on message is that they're crazy because that's what they want. Not only because it appeals to all the crazy illiterates who voted for Trump, but because it's a camouflage. It's a Trojan horse. They want us to think they're stupid and crazy. They're not. They're up to real bad shit, and so bad that their cover is that they're stupid and crazy. And then, of course, it will attract actual stupid and crazy people like Marjorie Taylor Green.
Yeah. Well, okay, so it's a sort of sobering moment. So we'll leave Marc Maron till last because this tweet from Dave Sirus does, again, flow in very nicely. If you care to read this one and go forth.
So Dave Sirus, who's a mate of mine, and he's probably recognized, I think, as one of the best, if not, I think, the best comedy writer in America, and his credits prove it as well as his work. Um, Dave Sirus says, "Funny thing about Rand Paul in funny thing about Rand Paul is everyone who says he's qualified to take on Fauci because he's a dentist has never been to a dentist." Um, so I didn't get a chance to research Rand Paul. I don't know if I can. I could probably find a picture of him smiling and look at his teeth. He's probably got bad teeth. That's the point. Um, but that's not even the point. Um, so he's talking about funny thing about Brown is everyone who says he's qualified has never been to a dentist. So he's referring to hillbillies.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's yeah. So it's funny because in the old, Americans still think Brits don't go to dentists, and sorry to say that, but that's
I know. I'm aware.
Right, Americans think that. It's not true. The best dentist I have is Simon Godley in Notting Hill. Hey, Simon, how are you? Um, so yeah. So this is Dave's brilliance. Funny thing about Rand Paul. So Rand Paul is a right-wing conspiratorialist, real manipulative, and he had public debates with Fauci about masks and other preventative measures for getting the not getting the virus. And Rand Paul saying, "So what makes you qualified? To maybe you're wrong." We have people, and meanwhile everyone knew, or most everyone should have known, that Rand Paul. He's like some kind of doctor, but he was a doctor before he became a politician, but it's nothing to do with virology. He was like, an anesthesiologist or maybe he was a dentist. I don't know what he was, but he got caught out because he was professing all the scientific knowledge when in fact his background was a very specific thing that had nothing to do with virology. So, you got to understand. I think you do. I mean, your audience. I mean, that we literally had a daily life or death situation. We were watching thousands of people die a day, and we were freaked out, scared to touch the anything that we didn't know, and too close, and oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't want to die. I don't feel so well. It was really frightening and stressful and intense for at least a year. Horrible, and Fauci was just simply saying, wear a mask. The studies have shown, even if you're with someone who's been inoculated, wear a mask. I think this went on before the inoculation, 11/5. So that would be May 11th. No, this is people already getting their vaccination. So the fact that someone would argue against the mask and about American freedom and all that bullshit that the Republicans use as a white flag over every issue, that it's infringe upon our freedom to kill people, rip them off. So the funny thing about Rand Paul is everyone who says he's qualified to take on Fauci, meaning he's not qualified to take on Fauci, because he's a dentist, has never been to a dentist. So Dave's referring to poor white trash, and he's not making fun of people being poor. He's not making fun of people being white. He's making fun of them being trash because they, cling to their gun, and they have a tattoo on their dick that says, Trump is God, and they just don't want to. It's like they have too much voting power. These fanatics who stormed the Capitol.
But they're being corralled by people in mainstream politics on the right who have undermined lockdowns and undermined, and we still have we have an anti-lockdown movement in the UK, and whilst there are some questions that need to be addressed about how we would do this again, and maybe how we would do it differently for the next pandemic and all the rest of it, but the mask burning element of it is the interesting thing is it's very performative, which is often a criticism that gets levelled at the left, and rightly so, but it is also very, it's what the right are doing when it comes to lockdowns is performative as well. But yeah, interesting one. Dave's, so his credits there I've just flashed
SNL.
Yeah.
He just co-wrote this wonderful movie directed by Judd Apatow, The King of Staten Island, which stars Pete Davidson, probably, up there with Dave Chappelle as the most important current comedian. I think Davidson is a fucking genius, and Triumph the Insult Dog and Comedy Central roasts. Dave is a very interesting guy. You should try to get him on your thing. I don't know if you really do
well,
it, but
he very kindly retweeted. So I can't believe
he retweeted. Oh, the fact that he retweeted what?
Tonight's show. Because
because you tweeted that we were talking about his post.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so we might get Marjorie Taylor Green on our back.
Might be
later.
watching right now. All right, go to Marc Maron.
So Marc Maron, this is completely. My guess is this about the tech firms moving? Is this something to do with tech firms moving to Austin and everybody moving to Austin?
Well, yeah, I guess Elon and all those guys, for some tax reason, and California is a really tough place to do business. Let's fuck it, we'll move to Austin. But no, this is about the fact that a bunch of LA comics and a bunch of comics from other places have left the Comedy Store and moved to Austin, Texas, because it's apparently where the comedy scene is the hottest right now. Joe Rogan, are you familiar with him?
Yeah, certainly am. Yeah.
Right. So Joe Rogan left the Comedy Store and moved in LA and moved to Austin, and is set up shop there. And every comic wants to be on that one, because you're on that one, you get 1 million followers instantly. And he supposedly, I heard, buying his own comedy club there, and just heard all the comedy audiences are moving to Austin. That's an interesting point. I mean, first of all, they're already there. Yeah, I think that, so. Here's what this made me think of, if I can. My frustration with the LA comedy scene. Overall frustration. I mean, so yeah, there's a personal career frustration I have with it at all levels, and we all know what they are, and every comic, unless you're famous, has the same thing on some level, or I'm not working hard enough, or whatever it might be. But my issue with the LA comedy scene is that there's so many great comedy scenes, and they never meet each other. There's the storytelling scene, the Moth comedy scene, which I've done, which is wonderful. Other storytelling comedy shows. There's sketch comedy that's brilliant, with some great people involved, and great, beautiful, wonderful Chicago born and bred comedy artists. There's the alternative comedy scene, Beth Lapidus, Largo, where some of the greatest comedians like Patton Oswalt and Kathy Griffin and Blaine Capatch, Zach Galifianakis, my friend who did my shows, they all came through that, not the mainstream Comedy Store. So what upsets me is something that I can do nothing about, which is that these comedy scenes used to kind of intertwine a little bit. We used to have sketch and improv at the Comedy Store right before a stand-up show. My friend, who is in a sketch team called Off the Wall, who I helped get to Edinburgh in 2000 when I produced the first High on Laughter. And I brought over George Wendt, who was in Off the Wall. Well, the first improv thing that Robin Williams did when he came down to L.A. from San Francisco was Off the Wall. He was in Off the Wall as a regular player. And so Off the Wall used to be at the Improv. I don't remember if it was like they did the first hour and then it was stand-ups, or they happened all night. I think it was a lot of variations. But it's just like when I was in New York before I started coming to London, and the Improv, which gave me a lot of play, had closed. And so I would go down to the Village where I'd my laptop and be writing my novel, but next door was the Comedy Cellar, where, I was, even though I had all, Comedy Store and, credits and all this, we don't know you, sit in the back, maybe we'll put you on. But I watched great comics, and a lot of them became famous. But they literally told me, comedy is not with a guitar. Comedy is not doing characters. Comedy is just you and a microphone in front of a brick wall. That was their orthodoxy. And that's one of the reasons why I went to England, because when I got there, I was suddenly on shows with double acts, character acts, tranny acts, and regular stand-ups. It was wonderful. It was what made those shows great was the variety. So that's my problem with LA is that it doesn't intermingle with itself. It doesn't even compete with itself, except in getting an audience. But all those audiences are too dedicated. So this refers to stand-up comedy scene in Austin. Suddenly, Austin's the hottest place in America for stand-up comedy. Maybe I'll go there and beg my way on stage and do a killer set. Maybe I don't even care because I'm making a movie. But I think this refers to the fact that Texas opened up quicker because the Texans don't believe in the virus. It opened up quicker than California.
Right.
That's probably why.
Yeah,
that's probably the answer. Yeah.
But there seems to be. I mean, obviously Austin is the university town, and it's kind of
music.
liberal.
I think that's true. And the whole music scene, very hip. You know, one of my favorite bands of all time, Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks. Come on.
Oh, that's a perfect band name for a DJ, isn't it?
Oh, they were great.
So, listen, so brilliant that we've managed to get through all 5 of your tweets. I wanted to pick up on 2 things that we mentioned at the beginning. Is there anywhere, where can people currently see Little Things?
Oh, thanks for asking. Well, I think it's on Vimeo, it's on YouTube, but I think the easiest way is if they go to my website, which is StephenAllenGreen.com, but I also have it listed as LegendComedian.com because you can spell Stephen 5 ways, Allen 6 ways, and Green 9 ways. So LegendComedian.com, and then hit Pandelic Films and just scroll down. It's right there. And thank you. It was so much fun. And that film stars 4 British stand-ups. Addie Vanderborg, Addie, he's fantastic in it. Steve Jameson is fantastic in it. Andy Linden.
Gosh, Andy, yes.
Is fantastic in it. I think the 4th one was me, but I was only filling in. I was only filling in as the policeman in the baby pram because that actor did not show up that day. That's literally what happened, and so I'm real proud of this film, and you got to really pay attention because the first 7.5 minutes are kind of there's a lot of exposition, not expositional dialogue, but there's a lot of expositional narrative, and it's kind of somber and serious, but there's a lot of comedy that's sneaking up, and then finally it just explodes. That was my purpose of it, how I designed it. So stick with it. It's really an interesting film. Frankly, I am very exciting time for me creatively. Getting back to film. And anyway, so that's where you can catch it. So go to legendcomedian.com.
Excellent stuff. Well, that's something else I can watch other than the football. The other thing was can people see I Eat People Like You for breakfast anywhere? Or is that
No, it's somewhere. It's only, it is actually somewhere. That's a good question. That's a lovely question. So this is my infamous one-man show about my experience with Jerry Lewis. It's not the best performance of it, and the stuff in it I left out, the stuff in it I go too long about, and I'm trying to remember things, but it's got some of the greatest moments because the story is so strong. YouTube, Stephen Allen Green. Now make sure you spell it right, not the way you have it on your scroll, but Steven,
I haven't done
and then and then ALAN, and then Green. So on YouTube, you can see my name right here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
the one thing I didn't alter before we set up, but I'm going to literally do it now. But go on.
Yeah, I wonder if it's on my website actually, but I know it's on YouTube. There's 6 or 7 parts. So go to YouTube, Stephen Allen Green, and I Eat People Like You for breakfast.
Good stuff, because it's a fascinating story.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's were you there at the Palladium, by the way?
No. I know all about it from the Edinburgh show, but I've actually seen the show when I was staying with you. I sat and watched it one evening.
Oh, that's right. I remember. Yeah. I'm just on that page on my website. There's more information on it, and I wonder if the video's there. There's just a one little video called "Hanging Up on Jerry Lewis," and then there's a video where I make the announcement at the Palladium, and then there's a High on Laughter. But the actual show, which I think I purposely kept it off my website. But yeah, go to YouTube. Thanks for saying all that. You know, they're pretty. Hollywood's pretty fucking sick of hearing my Jerry Lewis story. I don't know anybody who wants to hear that story again.
But don't forget, it's been 10 years. It's been 10. We haven't seen each other for 10 years. I mean, I know we've corresponded, but anyway. But
well, I've got to tell you, I miss England so much. I'm working on some projects. Hopefully, I'll come back. And I was actually talking. I've actually got, whereas I can't get booked here, or I haven't tried in the right way. Although this morning I came up with an idea on how to get booked again here, but it's just such a hassle, and it just seems like it goes nowhere. I've actually got gigs in England that people have already sent me money to do when I get back. And I'm not kidding. And I was talking to an Edinburgh producer about bringing my new one-man show, Legend, to Edinburgh. I was doing that before the pandemic. So I'm just trying to make it financially. I'm not rich like I used to be. You know, I used to have lots of money at my disposal, and I made money in England. So I had real estate money. So I had money coming in and out, a lot of money, so I could spend thousands of dollars, you know, and fly first class to London to stay in my Notting Hill flat, to get on a train for 20 minutes and do a gig and collect £100. So to me, so I'm working on some projects and things to bring me back properly to England. Although I have to say this, I still have a plan just to go back for a month just on holiday, and I hope that we can connect. What part of England are you in? Are you in London?
I'm still in London. Yeah, I'm in London. Yeah.
Where in London?
I'm in Bermondsey, so near the river. Quite near, no, Bermondsey, quite near the river. Not.
Oh yeah,
yeah, but Old Kent Road, that sort of, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, so yeah.
You have a couch? Do you have a couch? I'll pay you 20
I have
quid.
a couch. I have a couch.
I'll pay you 20 quid. I'll cook your breakfast and clean your toilet.
Oh my God, that's more than I did. Considering I made quite a lot of use of your toilet the night after I went to see all the Buffy stuff. We'd had this taco. I've forgotten the lady who was driving around. And honestly, I've never felt worse. It was literally the hellmouth for me, which the viewers from Buffy will know exactly what the hellmouth is. Well, you know,
God.
I had it.
I do. I'm sorry about that. I remember that. But you got to remember, the number one food attraction in Los Angeles is food poisoning.
So it was just inevitable then.
Yeah. It's not the food. It's the food poisoning. And they actually consciously add it to your food. The waiters used to say, "Would you like food poisoning with that?" They don't do that anymore.
Oh dear. Well, I certainly got sucker punched. Well, look, this is so brilliant. We've come into land on time. We've done all the tweets. Steve, just hang in there. When we stop streaming, we'll have a catch up. Not like that. Meanwhile, viewers, obviously, you can see Steve's Twitter handle there, Sagman. You could maybe even drag. Steve
Now I
back
have to start
Twitter.
posting things on Twitter. I haven't done Twitter in a long time. I think, what is this worth Twitter? All right, I'll do Twitter.
Oh, good. We've converted people. Such a love-hate relationship we have on Twitter. Under the likes column on the... Well, I mean, obviously, scroll through what we've retweeted in the last week, but we've got all the tweets that Steve has picked out, and also just a couple of... There's one from sports writer Jason Keane. That's from yesterday's extremely dramatic and shocking story about the footballer Christian Eriksen, who is fortunately... recovering and well in hospital, so greetings to you.
What's he recovering from?
It was a heart condition, and he literally just collapsed, and it was
that's terrible.
And well, this tweet is actually it's been deleted, but it's basically the game was against Finland and Denmark, and after Christian was taken to hospital and conscious, thankfully, the fans were chanting his name. So the Finland fans were chanting Christian, and the Denmark fans were chanting Eriksen, and it was quite a lovely thing. There'd been quite a big discussion about the footage of the incident and how people should have cut back to their studios as soon as it had happened. But this particular bit of footage, although the tweet is gone, was like fans coming together, basically, which is lovely. And I also, there's a nice one there from Paul F. Tompkins, but one of the ones that tickled me most, I mean, these must have been going around for years. Amy is trying, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe, which of course is the Rutger Hauer line from Blade Runner, and it's the picture of the frog being doused with water. That just tickled me. So for more tweets like that, please follow us at LKT Zoom. Scrolling above my head with Steve's now corrected name as well. Scrolling above my head is our website, letskilltwitter.com. Also the address for Buy Me a Coffee, where you can go and you can donate to the show and the guests. Literally just go to Buy Me a Coffee and find the Let's Kill Twitter page. Next week at 8 o'clock, we've got Callie Beaton. Really looking forward to speaking with Callie. It was actually Joan Rivers that was responsible for getting Callie into comedy. Joan told Callie, who was age 45 at the time, it's never too late to go into comedy, and Callie took her up on that, so it's going to be good talking to her. Steve, is there anything else you want to mention before we depart?
Yes, I've got my handheld luggage in the overhead, and what time do we arrive?
Well, about Christmas time, apparently.
We arrive in Christmas time. Perfect. No, I just want to say, Julian, this was great. You're a true heart. You really are. You're really a nice person and very very smart. And I appreciate our friendship very much. And yeah, come on out to LA. And I'm coming back to England at some point. This was fun, and I wish you a lot of success. I have a billion things to say, but
Well, hang back in the virtual green room, and I'll stop the stream. But I didn't even pay Steve to say that. So thanks to those of you who've been watching. This will be available as a podcast as soon as I can get that done, and we'll also be doing clips as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care.